Hello everyone. This webinar is the third and final part of a series of 3 webinars about balanced assessment system. We were recorded and we were posted in Schoology, and the links for the webinars will be available on the DOE website so educators can view when it's best for them. This summer or in early fall 2020, we will create a course for these webinars. So as you can depict on this picture, this is the intent of this webinar, where there's the strong connection between curriculum, instruction, and assessment, and high quality instructional material are designed to be in alignment with both the state standard and the assessment. When teachers are supported to skillfully use these materials through your school planning, addressing the instructional shift called for in the standard is more likely to consistently occur. Students will be supported in filling the knowledge gaps and progressing toward demonstrating mastery of on-grade level or course level standards. So you can see that this is probably not new to all of you. That at the base must be all we do is to make sure there's a strong curriculum instruction assessment connection is for the benefit of the student. But if we develop assessment well aligned to the standard, but we do not provide instruction equally aligned, the result of the assessment become meaningless because the triangle is missing one at this point. Focus on the curriculum, what your student do and be able to do, what your student learn, what your student be taught is at the basis of any planning in your school and district. And of course, the instruction meaning to be aligned to the curriculum, the implementation need to be faithful to the planning and to the sequence of the material presenting or the content, and then the assessment, whether it is a district assessment, a formative assessment in the classroom, or any interims or summative. There are different types of assessment that we would cover. But what does the student learn and what the student have not learned? Obviously, if instruction and curriculum are well aligned and strongly aligned to the standards, the math standards, then assessment is just an evaluation of what happened. So, as I mentioned it, if you do not teach to the rigor of the standard or to the standard, which is essential, then there is, anything else is going to fall apart, and we often blame the assessment, but that is this assessment, the smart balance are well aligned to the math standards, so it is in the benefit of educators and to the benefit of the student to also learn the standards. So if you need a general overview of the Delaware State math standards, we recommend that you read the standards. It contains the content and the math practices. It is available on the website. I will show you in a minute. Or if you need to understand the instructional shift required by the standards, and these 3 shifts are focus, coherence, and rigor, we recommend that you also look at these 2 documents, the publisher criteria for K-8, and there is also one for high school. So going along with this these were just to give you an overview of the standards. But if you need resources to support a deeper understanding and skillful use of the instructional shift, then we recommend that you, if you're not familiar with it already, that you look at these resources. The first one is for focus, next coherence and rigor. So high quality instructional materials are designed to fully address the math content standard, the practice standard, and the three instructional shift and of focus, coherence, and rigor. When teachers are supported to skillfully use high-quality instructional material, instruction will consistently engage students in successfully progressing to mastery of the grade or the course level standards. The links on this page provide resources to support deeper understanding of the instructional shift. So for focus, high-quality instructional material are designed to address the full depth of the grade or the course level standards. This addresses focus. It is important to note that at high school, high-quality material are designed to fully address all non-plus standards across the first three high school courses, whether it's Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, or Math 1, Math 2, Math 3. Care must be taken to ensure that the intentional design of the high-quality instructional material is maintained at the local level. The link for focus is provided by student partner achievement partners. It includes focus by grade level documents. So for grade K-8 and the widely applicable prerequisite standards document, which lists the high school standard deemed most important to support student study beyond high school. It also provides information concerning the key standard from middle school, which represent important connection to the high school mathematics. If you want to look at coherence, the coherence map, also provided by student achievement partners, now includes the high school standards as well as K-8. This map shows the connection between the standards within and across the grades. This is a useful tool for connecting instruction to students' prior knowledge or for finding and addressing student knowledge gaps or providing enrichment. The third shift, rigor. So in order for a teacher to fully address mathematical rigor, it is essential for the teacher to read the standard and be sure she or he knows which aspect or aspects of rigor is required by the standard being taught. For example, if a standard is attending to conceptual understanding, the teacher may choose to use instructional strategy that allows students to develop their own understanding through investigation and discussion, or to work with manipulatives or representation. However, if the standard is addressing procedural skill and fluency, the teacher may want to give the students the opportunity to examine models, representation side by side, in comparison with a computational procedure. Remember, a standard may address a combination of aspects of rigor. A worthwhile conversation for teacher teams is to discuss standards before they are addressed in instruction and determine as a group which aspects of rigor are being addressed by each standard. They should check that instructional strategies and assessment are in alignment with those aspects of rigor. High-quality instructional material are intentionally designed to address the appropriate aspects of rigor for each standard. The set of documents we provided at the link for rigor provide additional description of the three aspects of rigor, along with examples aligned to specific standards. So let me show you where these are. when you go on a DOE website, all right, when you go on a DOE website, you would be clicking on, you will see all the assessment address, but if you click on math, it would send you to the page. And then if you scroll in the middle of the page, you will see that at the bottom of the page, you see a link called Standards Institute Math Resources. If you click on this, a new page would open. And here we have included the 3 shift resources for the 3 shifts. The first one is an overview of the standard. So in case you need to refamiliarize yourself with the standards for elementary through K-8, secondary, or high school, or just look at all of the standards, we recommend that you click on these. This is to an overview, an understanding of the 3 shifts in mathematics that is essential for good instruction. And then below we have the actually achieve the core links for the focus, coherence, and then for rigor we included a set for each grade band, K2, 3, 5, 6, 8, and high school. We included the standard, the rigor in the standard that address conceptual understanding, procedural skill, and fluency in application. So if I click on 3.5, for example, and click on conceptual understanding for the rigor, it will bring me the document, and then I can look at what it would look like. There are tables, like for example, this is the main goal and what could be an effective instructional strategy. And then they have more resources going along with it. So for a particular example, it will tell you if you want to understand fraction as a number of a number line or represent fraction on a number line diagram, the rationale, the standard links to these, big idea, and then how it is linked to other standards. So it is a very, very well designed and crafted document. This is available for 3.5, but the same apply to the others. All right, so this is where you really want to make sure you know your standards and you teach to the intent of the standard. And if you need more documentation, please refer to these. So as we know about the standards and we know them well, then we also now look at the connection to the claim and the target, which has to do with the assessment. So curriculum and instruction should be aligned to the standard and to the goals, the learning goals. But we wanted to now look at the claim, target, and rationale that are in the assessment and how they connected to the standards. So the description of the targets and the claims and why it's important to understand the data from these assessments aligned to these targets and the claims and its implication on instruction. How to review material to check for alignment to the standards and better support instructional needs. So once you know and understand the standards, well, it's easier to see how the claims, the rationale, the targets represent the breadth of the standards because they serve an evidence-based framework to ensure the summative and interim assessment measure the knowledge and skills required by the standard. So to help connect the data about your students' performance on the Smarter test and the Delaware Content Standard, we have also created a math crosswalk to show you the structure of the claim, critical ideas, and associated targets, and the standards. This document is obviously, well, we think it's an easy way to focus on the claim and the target, but just remember that teaching to the true intent of the Delaware math standards will maximize the student performance. This is a very important document, and it is for grade level. So there is one for each grade, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, 7 and 8. It's easily understandable for the teacher. As you can see, on the left side, you have the overall claim, and then the critical idea under the claim that are aligned to this assessment, the target for the critical idea, and that's where each item is aligned to a target on the state assessment. And obviously, for each target, there are the related standards. So the standards are bundled together to then generate a target, and then we report data at the target level for a group. So when you look at the data for a student, you might look at target A, and you might be able to see as a group how the student did for this particular target. If they didn't do too well, then go back to the standard grade 3 operation algebra thinking for these first four standards, and then look at what did the instruction cover it where, what did you do, would you change strategies? Later we'll look at resources, but if there is no where develop learning goals and alignment between your standard and your instruction, then there will be a flaw and the student will not benefit from it. So this is a very important document, and if you do not know where to find it, we recommend that you go on the DOE website again. If you go back to the page here, you want to go on to math, and then you will be able to actually go under Smart Analytics. And then in the middle section, you'll see there's both the connecting smart assessment to instruction. If you click on, for example, the grade 3 crosswalk for math, it will show you the claim, an overview of the claim, what the claims are, and the link to the mathematical practices. And then obviously you can see just like what I showed you, and the same thing for claim 2, claim 3, for claim 4. So all of these are available for all grades, as I mentioned. So a note about the claims is that recall that the overarching math claims, concept and procedure, which makes claim 1, problem solving claim 2, communicating, reasoning claim 3, and modeling and data analysis claim 4, are the same for all grades. So the claims are the same for all grades. The assessment targets under claim 1 are grade level specific. So they're usually the cluster level headings of the standards, and they support the major work of the grade. Let me repeat this. You got the claim the same for all grades in math, but the assessment target under claim 1 are grade level specific, and they're usually the cluster level headings of the standard, and they support the major work of the grade. So be familiar with these targets and make sure that they are aligned to your instruction, are covered in your instruction in curriculum planning, and there will be the combination, it will be a nice connection between the three main ideas of education: curriculum, good excellent instruction with good strategy, and then good assessment design. The assessment target for claim 2, 3, and 4 are the same for all grades, and they are aligned to mathematical practices. The targets are intended to support the development of item tasks that contribute evidence to the claim. We include the link for a quick reference in case you want more information about the claim. So these are the three types of data that administrators, specialists, and teachers will have access to. They can have an overall scale score, a claim performance, and a target information. We recommend that you use group data as it will yield more accurate data at the claim and especially the target level, as not all students will have the exact same target and item due to their ability level and the computer adaptive testing design. So you can look at the overall scale score, but it will be a starting place for curriculum planning, and it will just give you a high-low distribution and percent proficient. But once you start looking at the claim and target level, you'll be able to see see strengths and weaknesses in the claims. And the targets. You'll be able to look at student work and then you would be able to compare with model student responses from this assessment. But so you can compare within a district or a classroom, are your students, how they're performing on a particular target, which are linked to standards. So just be aware of how you look at data and for what purpose you're looking at data. Sometimes looking at a group of students is obviously more informative than one particular student, and then you can reach more students at the same time. So just a word of caution that the crosswalk, as I mentioned, is a connection between the claims, the critical ideas, the targets, and then the standards. But by design, the standards are not all the standards are listed in a crosswalk. Obviously, it's because, like we said, the targets focus on the major work of the grade level for claim 1. And the document would become too big, too large if we had to list all of them. And then also sometimes the target don't represent the full standard, but part of the standard that are meant for instructions and not for versus assessment. So the standards, you should be teaching all the standard and especially emphasizing the major standards, which are outlined in the Achieve the Core documents. But the assessment cannot assess every standard. Therefore, it assesses the target that has selected some of the major work and of the standards. So we know we drilled it here, but if we need to really teach to the standard and to the intent and to the rigor and to the depth and to the focus of the standard and not to the test specification. If you teach the standard, assessment will just be a breeze. We'll just go through. So as we may not have time to cover this here, after you completed this webinar, you might want to think about the impact, how the evidence-centered design of the smarter summative and interim assessment, specifically the claims and the target, impact instructional practice. It'll be worthwhile to just pick the time while you're looking at the claim and target and how you can use it for instructional practice. So this graphic shows the balanced assessment system for the state of Delaware. Notice that each assessment type is color-coded for clarity and how each is integrated. You can see that the top part, so you have the formative assessment process that is happening in a classroom, and it's daily, and it has the most impact on the student. And then we have the benchmark and interim kind of clustered together at these or classroom as well or district created level. and they range from multiple times a year as a benchmark assessment or 2 to 3 times a year as an interim. They can be the district interim or they can be also the smarter interims. And then at the end of the spectrum, so you go from the formative assessment process in the classroom that impact the student right on in the moment, all the way to the statewide assessment, which is once a year, and it's state directed, we guided, and it is completely aligned to the Delaware standards. The statewide assessment is for accountability, while the others are to check understanding in real time, monitor instructional effectiveness, and measure student learning and growth. It's important to note that the formative and the benchmark assessment are assessment for learning, where the interims and the summative, including the state testing, are assessment of learning and evaluation of the program. So what is the goal of assessment? If used correctly, the assessment data can assist teachers and administrators in making wise decisions for the improvement of student learning. The classroom formative assessment data can be used immediately to inform appropriate shifts in instruction, to assist with student misunderstanding, and the teacher can quickly modify material or instruction to clarify a point. When the interim and the benchmark assessment are common across classroom, then your student data can be used to assist with decision making for local professional development and material investment. Similarly, if state assessment measure commonly taught information, then outcomes on professionally developed assessment can be utilized to identify weak spots in curriculum and instructional material that can be fortified, or to perhaps improve professional development where the outputs indicate the area of low performance. A high-quality assessment system can provide relevant and ongoing feedback and information for targeted decision-making to increase efficiency, accuracy, and performance for students of all levels. So as you can see in this graphic, on the left side, you have obviously the curriculum and material, professional learning and instruction at the basis, which is you can plan for it and deliver to the student. And then you will have the classroom assessment to assess what the plan, the instruction has done or provided to the student. And then on the student outcome, we also have the state assessment. And the state assessment then will give back feedback about the curriculum and material and professional learning, while the classroom assessment can adjust classroom or district instruction and material being used. So the whole system provides feedback for large-scale investment and maintenance of assessment. At the Department of Education, within each of the accountability assessment, we have included a balanced assessment system model for the teaching and learning process, assisting all stakeholders in supporting student learning and helping students promote their own growth. So we have, this shows obviously for ELA and math model, but we have one for science, one for social study, the alternate assessment, SAT, PSAT, English learners, the access test. And they're all available on a DOE website. The models are interactive with links embedded for help with further understanding and usage. And each model follows a color-coded system for formative, interim, and summative assessment. So you can see you have the formative part, which of course everything must be aligned to the standards. There is information about the formative process, which actionable feedback during instruction, and then should be embedded instructional assessment. And then we move on to the interim, which is an evaluation of student learning at the end of the instructional unit. It's of course aligned to the content standard as well, but still be actionable feedback before the end of school year, which led to the summative, where it's an evaluation of the student learning of the content standard. And in this case, for ELA and math, we use a smaller bounds assessment, computer adapted. Below, you will see all links, resources aligned to support the formative assessment process, interim, and summative. So you would see some tools or some videos of how teachers have used the formative assessment process in their classroom, a video by Laurel District, how they use the digital library resources. And then you can go into the interims resources and then into the summative, which include also the practice test. If you have not attended the webinar, the first webinars, we recommend that you go and listen to them. They are all available on a DOE website. If you go back on the main page, on the welcome, you will see in the middle section there is a balance assessment link. Once you click on this one, a Word document would open, and then this document will actually give you the link. It would show you the link. So it has a description for each of the webinar. The first one, the second one, right now we connected the third one, but the other two are available. And there will be a link for each of the webinar. We are a little behind for the link of these, but these will be available very soon. And then we would be also updating the links for these, the third webinar in the series. So click on them. They're all YouTube videos, so you can quickly, if you cannot open it directly into this page, copy the link and then paste it into your browser, and you should be able to see those recorded webinars, especially including the one today. Just use browsers other than Internet Explorer, as it is not always displaying correctly. All right. So we know that summative assessment are data point toward the end of the school year, and the formative assessment is a process of gauging where your students are doing instruction so that the instruction can be adjusted right away to address the student needs. Documentation of student knowledge and progress is acquired using several types of focused classroom assessment. So you all know that your district or school has selected high-quality assessment to minimize testing time while getting specific information about student knowledge and instructional gaps. These are the different type of assessment that should not take lots of teaching time. So as you can see, the student, all the planning is done so that the student can maximize from the learning and demonstrate their knowledge of the standard, minute by minute, daily, weekly, unit, quarterly, and annually. Annually is the state assessment, but it could also be an end of, it could be also if the district wanted to do a annually one, but be careful. As instruction should be the focus, should be where we spend most time. And then we do have a weekly or unit or quarterly assessment to gauge where the students are in their learning. So let's look at the three types of assessment, and in particular formative assessment process. Like I said earlier, the classroom assessment to better instruction and ensure students are getting timely feedback to improve and celebrate their knowledge. I am not going to repeat all of it, but just remember the formative assessment is defined as a multi-step interactive process in which the student and teacher engage in instructional activity, gather evidence of learning, and use feedback to adjust teaching and improve learning in real time. So these are ongoing and they use daily to focus the lesson plan and individual student needs. These are administered by teachers and only for the explicit purpose of diagnosing where students are in their learning and where gaps in knowledge and understanding exist. They are small scale and minute by minute to provide immediate feedback. These are the four attributes. These are the four attributes of the formative assessment process. You must have clear intending learning goals. You must be elicit evidence of these learning goals. You have to interpret the evidence of the learning goals being learned, and then you have to act on the evidence. We also include a link about the formative assessment process and more information about it. So these are the example of formative assessment data to inform instruction based on student works, student discussion, and then exit tickets or summaries. You can go into the digital library to find more information about the formative assessment process. But we also include the link for the Achieve the Core, where there will be some strategy. There may be some strategy for in case you are looking for formative assessment strategies. So again, look at the student work. It will inform you a lot. Listen to the student discussion. Carefully listen, take notes about how students are interacting, either in small group or individually when they work on their project or exercise. And then teacher can give exit ticket where they can gain insight on what the student have or not learned the concept and how to address the student struggle. So these are resources about formative assessment strategies. So the next type of assessment we'll discuss are benchmark and interim assessment. The benchmark assessments are for recently taught materials. They're usually a unit, chapter, semester, and they are for grade and to monitor progress toward learning goals. They are aligned to the district school or classroom curriculum pacing. The other kind of assessment is the interim assessment, and they are general achievement, and they measure to monitor the progress toward the end of the year goal, and they identify student or curricular area needed additional attention and content covers the full-year standard. The interims are very similar to benchmark, though the interims are used 2 to 3 times a year, and they're administered by school district. And the benchmark testing occur more frequently and are given by classroom teachers or district-wide. These assessments are designed to serve instructional purposes that should provide results that enable educators to adapt curriculum or better meet the student needs. So You can have interim assessment at the district level, but of course we also have the interim assessment with smarter balance. We're choosing the same scale as the summative, aligned to the same standard, and we're field tested with this in the same way as a summative assessment. So therefore, if you use the interim assessment, you have a very good alignment to your summative, and you can prepare your student in case you can see gaps, give them the best preparation for summative assessment. So being deeply familiar with the standards, including, the interim data, obviously the Delaware State Standard provide the framework for instruction assessment. The data from the interim formative assessment can be used to determine how students are progressing toward mastery of standard. But the use of high-quality instructional material with sustained professional learning will ensure alignment of the instructional practice and the assessment to the grade level standards. So being deeply sorry, I lost. So in order to put this slide, you want to have high quality instructional material that these are rated green by Ed Reports. I hope everybody is familiar with the reports. And they have rated all the different materials being used for math instruction. In Delaware, we use Bridges for the elementary, Illustrative for Math 6-8, and Core Plus for high school. But you may want to go to the website, and you will be you'll be able to see the report. And so if you need to double check that your instructional material are high quality and aligned to the standards, check the Ed Reports website, but your curriculum director and staff should already be familiar with these reports. So when you go into the Ed Reports webpage, you want to compare material. There's a compare material, and you can pick the topic you want. So in this case, I just picked K8, and then below you can see how the resources are the material are being rated, and you can see for focus and coherence the rating, and for rigor and mathematical practices, and then they give you an overall rating of the alignment. The same thing for other material. You can see others are not so well aligned, and so it's color coded very well. Here, Bridges, and then you go down all the way down, you'll see other materials. So take a look at these material. I'll go back over this, but there's a lot of resources in the digital library that we will be able to cover later on. Of particular interest are the connection playlist. So I hope you are familiar, or if not, maybe by giving the IABS, you'll be able to explore what the connection playlist, the benefit of the connection playlist and the alignments to the standards. But the connection playlist are to support student performance, to plan instruction, to tailor teaching and learning to student needs, and it's to form instructional next step. We include the link. If you want to see what an connection playlist looks like, you would log into the digital library. Of course, you will have to have an account. It has to be a district account. I don't know if okay. It will have to be a district account, not a personal account. So you can create your own account and you can bookmark resources. You can rate the resources so the educators can get feedback on the resources, similar to rating when you're using Amazon website. So let me show you if you're not familiar. So you would go into the Smarter web page, Smarter Balance here, but they're all connected directly to the IABS in Airways. But let's say you didn't go to Airways, but you want to look at the connection playlist. Click on this smarterbalance.org/educators/the digital library, and then you go all the way down to the page, and you can see this section called connection playlist. You would then click on the grade on the subject first. So let's say pick math. Let's pick grade 6. And then it would give you a list of all the connection playlists available. And they're all available actually in the digital library. So you would log in and then you would be able to access the others. This is you click on it, open it, and it will basically give you an example of what it looks like. So you, based on the student for the IABs will get a performance on this IAB either of below standard, at near standard, and above standard. And based on their performance, it tells you that the student with basically is at that level and they're working to solidify the following skill, and to solidify the following skill for at near, then the Smarter Balance has created some resources, what to do, what the recommended resources to use in order to keep the student moving toward more knowledge. So this is available for each connection playlist. If you pick another grade, you would get a different list, but they're all connected. So you need to access the digital library directly to get these. If you go in the digital library, if you log in directly, you will get there. If we have time, I will show you how to do that. But go to the webinar number 1 that has all the details. So let's back up a little bit here about a note about the balance interims. This slide shows the ICA and IAB for grade 5 math. So this document, very useful, available on DOE website, will give you the two types of interims available for Smarter Balance. You can see there's an ICA and an IABs. The ICA is actually a more comprehensive and cover a full range of targets, and similar in design it's to the summative. So if you want a multiple multiple domain, you would use an ICA. However, if you want to focus and have a target, be more specific about the content, then you would be looking at the IABs. So the IABs are very specific. They're obviously just one. All of them are going to be just one claim, but the focus, the IABs were either usually no more than 3 targets. And remember, target is a cluster of standards together. And then there could be a performance task given as a block, as an IAB. So the performance task can be given alone and would give you a result. Or if you give the ICA, just remember that the ICA has 2 parts. It has the CAD portion and the performance task. both must be given and completed in order to get a score, an ICA score. If you only do one part, performance task for the ICA or the CAT portion for the ICA, you will not get results. Both must be completed. So Smarter Balance has been working very hard, and they have developed actually new focus IABs. They're even more targeted, and now they're going to be just one target, and they would actually address, just like, for example, numerical and expression grade 5 would just address write and interpret numerical expression. So there will be about 12 to 15 items for that particular target. So you don't have to use all the IABs, but you select and use them strategically and have a clear purpose of why you're using the IABs or the focus IAB, which assess one particular target. You can administer IABs after specific content has been covered in a classroom to validate the strengths or the weaknesses of the student. Instructional purposes. So this is what the new IAB looks like. This is not what looks like the IAB, the connection playlist. This is a new format, but very much the same. Basically, tells you what the student is above, near, and below, and what they should be able to do at that level, and then the resources connected to these topics within this particular IAB on numerical expression. Every IAB is aligned to a claim again and a target. How do you access the connection playlist? I mentioned it earlier. You can either, once you get an IAB and the data is available in Airways, then you have under report longitudinal reports, you can access the connection playlist directly. It will send you to the digital library login, and then you can log in there. Or you can go directly separately into the digital library without going through Airways to look at the connection playlist. As mentioned earlier, Smarter Balance is creating a lot of good resources aligning the assessment, standards, targets, and claim, and the difficulty of the items. So more sample items will be released by the end of June 2020, and we invite you to check these out and use them with your instruction and curriculum planning. We will be doing more communication about these, but we include the website in order for you to check it out. So let's discuss the definition, the last type of assessment in an assessment bound system. It's a summative assessment. It's any type of assessment that occur after instruction to document achievement. It also is a measure of student proficiency in a subject or against state standard. Just remember, summative are assessment of learning rather than for learning as the formatives are. Formative assessment are. So it's more of an evaluation of a system, evaluation of a program in your school and district. They're used for accountability for state and federal requirement. So for yearly math, we have Smarter for grade 3 through 8, Smart Balance Assessment for grades 3 through 8, and for SAT, and for high school and grade 11, we have SAT. Summative assessment in a classroom are intended to check what students know and can do, that demonstrate what they have acquired over a longer period of time and not based on instruction that just took place. These assessments are used for grading purposes. Summative assessment at the state level may be used for accountability purposes. They are for us. I mean, they're summative in a class in a district, but there's also state assessment, summative assessment. They're a good source of information for educators in understanding the student performance and to help guide instruction. So if a teacher looks at the Summative Assessment, they can correlate their student performance score to how well they did for each claim and target. And that provides teacher with the knowledge if a certain target was not met by a greater number of students. That may be an indication of an area to focus instruction, or look further to see if the model of the test question aligns to the teaching method implemented. So going back to the data, this is a suggested way of analyzing student result, whether it's interim or summative data. We recommend that you analyze group data for the claims and targets. Once you get a good picture of your student performance regarding the claims, then you look at the strengths and weaknesses gap among your students to focus on the targets that support the claims. And then this helps you revise your lesson plan or curriculum by paying close attention to the instruction of the standards. So recall that math and ELA state assessment are part of a balanced assessment system with lots of resources available to educators, administration, and parents. This is the Smarter Balanced Assessment plan model. We do not give, obviously, the summative assessment at grade 11, just at grade 3 through 8. So we give the SAT at grade 11. So there is a module in the digital library for ELA called Planning Curriculum for My Student using Smarter Balanced Score points. So it can be easily adapted for math, where you have an opportunity to summarize and analyze the data in PRC, and it will assist you with planning the next step based on your student performance and addressing the area of needs and weaknesses. So for example, you will look at all the students that are above standards, near, and group them, and even you can go down and look at students with accommodation, and then you can compare how did they all do based on the different classroom, and then you can start to see where gaps or weaknesses are as a group. This actually should have been the previous slide for you. You always want to make sure that your curriculum and is aligned to your standard and therefore to your student needs. So you can make sure that your curriculum is aligned to the standard. I hope it is. If not, then go back and look at the early document we presented in the first few slides to see where it's not. Is there an opportunity to learn depth and breadth of the math standard before the assessment? If that's not the case, then you're depriving your student from performance. Make sure that you have your tasks are assigned to student are comparable to the task model released and then to the expectation of the standards in terms of rigor and difficulty. And then look at the example of student work, just to give you an idea of, yes, we are aligned, yes, the student will be prepared, yes, student, but that you should not be teaching to the test. You should use the test as a format and make sure that you align all your instruction and curriculum is aligned to the standards, and the rest will just fall nicely. These are the 4 claims to remind you to address these 4 these areas, but the mathematical practice should not be omitted when teaching to the content standards, as they should be the basis of it. So we also include resources. This is the math version of the assessment literacy module in the digital library. It's very easy. Instead of reading a document that could be over 50 pages, the Smarter Bands develop a module understanding the small balanced mathematical content specification, very friendly, and it's there is a pair document for ELA. But if you go into the digital library, I bring it up, but you will log into the digital library and then you type into the search mathematical content specification. It will bring you a different document, but if you click on the top one, this is the one I'm referring to. So it's an introduction to the content specification. So it doesn't go to all the details, but if you need more information, you can go and get the document on smaller bounds. So very easy and understandable and very friendly to use. So we also, in a digital library, you also find a plethora of resources, both instructional and professional resources. So if you're looking for video of what formative assessment process looks like, please take a look at these videos. They're grade level and they are for many major topics in mathematics. I include the 4 attributes of formative assessment process. Make sure you have a clear intended learning goals, elicit the evidence, interpret evidence, and act evidence. This video will be specific. So for example, for each grade, for example, grade 4 here, you can see there's a module about understanding fraction, how to elicit evidence, and then how to interpret evidence regarding understanding a fraction, and how to act evidence using for understanding fraction. So these are very short, very easy to follow. We recommend that you take a look at them. So start small and then you can expand later on. We include the filter on the left side if in case this is your first time, but please take a look at these videos for now. Digital library will be changing later on in the summer of 2020. Those resources will still be available, but might be packaged differently. So please, if you're not familiar with digital library, peruse through them and see what's available, as there are many. There are over 3,000 resources, so filter it down. More information. We, in addition to the information about digital library and the resources about summative, test blueprint, interims, content specification, can be found on the Small Balance website. These are the features of AOAs for the interim assessment. The first 3 were available in previous years, and the last 5 are new for the 1920 school year. For more information, refer to webinar number 2, Reporting and Data Literacy, where we went in more detail about these features. The data can be downloaded and organized to facilitate discussion in PRC settings. So the second one has always been available, but it's the one that most educators use. If you have an IABS or an ICA, but IAB in particular, you can look at the 5 best items of the 5 worst items, and you can do a group analysis, and then you can readdress why these students are missing these 5 items, why made them miss it, and then there may be gaps, and then you can readdress it in your instruction. We include the reference for the manual for the airways, the video. There's 9 little videos about airways. They're about 3 minutes each. And then, of course, you can look at this practice test that has some sample item and format and alignment to the standard. So when you utilize accurate day-to-day classroom assessment using high-quality instructional material, and you add it with the a very high quality curriculum and instruction decision, along with a balance of high quality standardized tests. You, of course, have a balanced assessment system that will effectively promote student learning. This is not new, this is common sense, but we still see some districts who don't always have high quality instructional material and make good decisions to use sensible and high quality assessments. So what are the next steps for the different roles when you're using the data and reports from Airways and ORS? If you're a teacher, you look at the student level data to make decisions for next step for the student. If you're a principal, you look at the school and student level reports and you make the grade level decision within the school for instructional purposes and professional learning. And if you're a curriculum director, you look at the district, the school, and student level report to make grade level decision across the district for curriculum decision and professional learning. So we hope you have a greater understanding of the fundamental interconnection of these three pillars for student success, which rely on good instructional strategies, high quality instructional material, and carefully designed assessment are used in the state of Delaware to improve educational practices. So if you balance these three components of good instructional practices, then you have supported assessment for learning as well as assessment of learning to promote student and educators' growth. We include the notes mentioned in several slides as a summary. And if you have any question regarding the information presented, please contact the appropriate education associate. Of course, you can contact me. I'm Katia Fore, and I'm oversee math and ELA, smarter ELA and math, but I'm a mathematics content. ELA can be Teresa Bennett, or we usually work very closely with the curriculum and instruction group at the department, so it is not, we all work together. So assessment and instruction group, work group at DOE work together, and we can always provide you more information if you need to. You have a wonderful rest of the day. Thank you for attending today. Bye.